Here we go.
The Super Mario series is known for a lot of things. It's known for being a great 3D platformer, a 2D platformer, and just a lot of fun for either solo or duo couch gameplay, or just even if you have the family along with you. But one thing that Nintendo seems to really lack on with Super Mario games from the franchise is boss battles. Over the many years, there's been hundreds of boss battles from the Mario series, and every single one, it seems like, has been very easy and very basic to beat. And Nintendo follows this same formula with many other games, but mostly the Mario games, and this is kind of where it all originated. Every single boss is either a 1-tap or a 3-tap, and that's what I like to call basic boss battles. It's either you jump on their head 3 times, you're done. You rinse, repeat. You do the same action 3 times until the boss is dead, or you do something incredibly easier like the original Super Mario Bros. And that's where we're going to actually look to start this list. We look at Super Mario Bros. And it's a very basic thing. There's not really any bosses in this game, there's just Bowser. And every time you get to Bowser, or the fake Bowser, your goal is to simply jump over him and hit the axe. You're trying to actually avoid him rather than even fight him. You're hitting the axe, dropping him off the drawbridge and into the lava, which is an incredibly easy thing to do. You literally just have to power through him. Even if you have a mushroom, you can take the hit and still hit the axe. It's incredibly easy. Mario Bros. 3 is kind of the same thing. You'll come across these mini bosses called Boom Boom, and you literally just jump on its head 3 times and it's over. I mean, there's even stages where they're harder in World 2 than in World 7 because of Boom Boom and the way he moves and if he can fly or not. You'll come across all the Koopa Kids, which are, once again, the most boring boss fights in the world. They'll shoot some type of laser out of their wand and just jump back and forth. You jump on their head 3 times, it's over. And once again, even the boss with Bowser is just a giant keep away where you just have to avoid his attacks and let him kill himself by pounding through the ground. And it's just very basic and a very easy concept to come up with, and it's not really unique. And the Super Mario Land games don't do much to steer away from this concept either. Super Mario Land 1 literally is the same thing as the original Mario Brothers, where you have these different rooms set up for Mario to reach the axe or the button to drop the drawbridge and, kill the boss. And Super Mario Land 2 is just another jump fest where you're just pounding on the enemy's head. It wasn't until Mario Bros. 2 until we started seeing a kind of change in the boss formula, where now you were able to pick up items, and this allowed Mario to hurt enemies. And this is kind of what happens with the boss battles, is when Mario starts to get a more dynamic moveset, the boss battles start to get more intense and more interesting, and that's why Mario Bros. 2 was able to do that. Mario Bros. 2 had Mario picking up either eggs from Birdo, bombs from Mauser, or just different things around the room and throwing them at the enemies. Not all enemies were 3 taps either, including King Wart, which actually took a lot of hits and was kind of hard to attack because of his crazy bubble attack pattern. But this actually added, more depth into the boss battles, and that's what was so exciting. Even though another reason for this was probably because it wasn't originally a Mario game, it was a reskinned Mario game from the game Doki Doki Panic. Let's fast forward a couple years where we enter the brand new era of the new Super Mario Bros. Games. God, I hate these. It's not that I'm not a fan of the 2D Mario games, I am, especially since Mario Maker lets people create some really creative levels and themes, but the new Super Mario Bros. Games were just so bare bones to me. I mean, even the bosses, I think the bosses are just as bad as the original games. Super Mario Bros. On the DS was the very first one, and those bosses were actually kind of unique. They had some uniqueness, but at the end of the day, you just jumped on their head 3 times. There wasn't anything else. At least the bosses were unique looking. They weren't just, reskins of Boom Boom and the Bowser Jr. kids, and it was just like, come on now. I mean, look, for instance, you've killed Bowser. He's about to enter his final phase. He's about to grow into this giant crazy being. This is the final fight. This is what you've all been waiting for, and what is this? Did he just grow back to normal size? What's the point? And it's sad to say that the next 3 games in the series do the exact same things, if not even worse. It's just bounce, 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 they're dead. Bounce, 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 they're dead. Bounce, 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 they're dead. I can't do it anymore. It's just so boring. It's not intense. It's not, and it's the same thing with Bowser. Bowser dies at the end. he gets big. Well, he definitely gets big, bigger than what he did in the DS game, but he gets big, and you have to dodge him, hit the button again. It's just about Mario hitting this button. Mario has an extreme obsession with this exclamation mark. I don't know why. The point I'm really trying to make here is these boss battles just are not unique. You know, they don't really give the player any incentive or any type of reason to go back and play them. They're just not fun. I can count on my hands how many times I've gone back and played New Super Mario Bros. U bosses, and it's just probably 2, and it's just not interesting. It's not, you know, it's not exciting. There's no type of unique pattern that you have to remember or do. It's just jump over the boss, hit the switch, or jump on the boss 3 times. But thankfully, Nintendo starts to change things around as they jump into the 3D perspective. Now we have the Mario Galaxy games, and they kind of get away from that formula a little bit. They still, you know, continue to have 3 to 4 hits per boss, and they kind of repeat the same attacks and just get a little bit tougher, but at the same time, you're actually doing new attacks on the boss themselves instead of just jumping on their head 3 times or completely avoiding them all their own. For instance, you are using your spin attack now to, you know, knock enemies back, to hit their weak spots, and to even reflect items back at the enemies. And it's really unique. I mean, and even take the last Bowser boss for Mario Galaxy 1, for instance, it was really exciting to see that giant epic battle on a planet where you had to spin and hit Bowser multiple times before you could even take damage, and that was really exciting. A really great example of a boss battle that, you know, grows from start to finish. And, you know, he gets different power-ups, and, you know, you have to defeat each power-up by knowing the weakness, hitting his head spot or hitting the weak spot. It was just really exciting. And even Mario Galaxy 2, you'll use different power-ups yourself to fight against enemies, whether it be the rock mushroom or stuff like that, to traverse the different ways the arena works, or even use like launch stars to jump from side to side of the arena, just like Mega Hammer. But the last boss battle for Mario Galaxy 2, unfortunately, didn't really do much to separate itself from the rest. It was the same, you know, jump on a planet, shoot the planet at Bowser type of thing, and it really wasn't that interesting. But even though Galaxy's games were great in that 3D atmosphere, and especially with those bosses, and they did a really good job designing them, they seem to go back in the wrong direction with Super Mario 3D Land and World with the boss design. I mean, the bosses are unique and clever, but when it comes to actually defeating them, it's the same process. Mario 3D Land has hardly any bosses. In fact, you're only fighting Bowser, and it's the same thing repeated every single time with a couple more traps in a way where you're just trying to reach the switch once again. Mario in that switch, I swear. And then even at the end, you're in this giant chase scene, which looks cool as you're running towards the camera, but you're just jumping on the switch again. But Super Mario 3D World kind of improves on everything that 3D Land tried to do. You'll fight Bowser for the first time and kick soccer balls at his car, and get this, the Bowser fight changes at the end, but it's still stupid. But anyways, you'll jump on enemies 3 times again, you know, nothing big. But you'll fight Bowser at the end, and you'll have to scale this giant tower, which is cool and atmospheric, but at the end of the day, once again, your goal is to hit something, and it's the POW block. At least it's not a switch this time, you know? You're hitting a POW block to defeat all these Meowsers and stuff because of the double cherry. It's a whole stupid story, but you defeat Bowser in the same sort of fashion that we've been doing for years. Doesn't really get away from that, you know, same-o, same-o. And then, of course, Nintendo opens up the Mario timeline and introduces a new style of Mario, being the open world sandbox levels that are in full 3D. And this absolutely helps for the boss battles as well, because it adds, once again, unique characteristics because of Mario's new moveset in this 3D space. So now you can pick up Bomb-Omb and throw him, even though I thought you threw him off the cliff all these years, and in fact, that does nothing. You just throw him back on the ground. It's stupid, but then you could throw things at those 2 hands with the eyeballs in the desert, and there's just all kind of cool little unique things. You could pick up Bowser by his tail. You can actually touch Bowser. You're touching Bowser in this game, not just a Switch. But you can pick up Bowser by his tail, spin him around, and chuck him at one of the bombs in the background, and it's just so satisfying. It's a really tough thing to do, but it's satisfying. And Super Mario 64 was really good at, doing that. They really made these boss battles seem fun. When you fought Bully on the ice, you had to knock him off, and you prevent yourself from getting knocked off and stuff. You had to keep punching him and trying to knock him off. And they all just felt really dynamic. With Super Mario Sunshine, it's also the same theory again because of that moveset, that dynamic moveset. Since Flood is now in the game, you're going to be using Flood to either fill Piranha Plants' bellies or spin slot machines in a casino basement against a giant Boo. It's weird, but it's unique, and these bosses are just really fun to fight. Most of the bosses take place in the area that you found him instead of, dropping to an arena. For instance, when you fight Petey Piranha the second time, he just comes straight for the village, and you have to fight him, while the village people watch, and it's just really exciting. It's really dynamic. The Manta Ray on the beach, you had to spray him until he split up into multiple pieces, and until all the multiple pieces were gone. It was very tedious, but it was fun to me. I thought it was unique, I thought it was different, and just using Flood to do these things was really cool, even though the final boss was just you using the rocket propeller to just knock Bowser out of a bath. So Mario Odyssey comes out, and it's kind of a mixed bag for me because, once again, Mario does have the most, dynamic moveset out of, I think any game. He can pretty much turn into anybody or anything to help him in battle, but, it just falls short sometimes. Like, for instance, the Brutals take place of the Koopalings, and you just jump on their head 3 times, and it's over. They just throw these little generic hat tricks at you. But some bosses are fun. You use the Gushin to fly across the beach and kind of, spray water down on this giant octopus's head. Or you'll fight a giant dragon, but you just take chains off of his head. It looks like it's going to be a dynamic fight, but nothing much happens from that. You'll just have fights that seem to fall a little tad bit short. And even, the fight with Bowser, I think that's really cool to put on his hat and start punching him, but they repeat it at the end, and it's just, once again, the same boss fight. You know what you're doing. It's not that difficult. Some of the cooler bosses in the game included the giant ancient monster that was in the caves and you had to turn into his fist and pound him in his face. That was pretty sweet. And then the giant Mecha Brutal where you had to use the Pokio enemy to fling yourself to the top and ground pound on the, cockpits. That was just... little things like that is what makes this game so special, and like I said, it was a mixed bag. Some of the bosses were incredibly fun to fight, and some of them were just a little lackluster. So taking one last final look, I've divided these games among 2 categories, one being 3 taps or basic boss battles, and another being the dynamic boss battles. And let's just take a look at exactly how these games fall into these categories. So yeah, is it surprising? It's crazy to think that out of these 17 games, only 6 of them made the dynamic boss battle category, and it's true though. When we look at these games to the left with the 3 taps, they're all Mario Brothers games, they're all 2D games, they're just really basic games in general, and they're games that give Mario basic movesets, which means he can't really do much to bosses, and I don't know if that really contributes to the fact that Mario boss battles are really lame most of the time. I don't know, but when you look at the dynamic category, you have games like the Galaxy series, Super Mario 64, Odyssey, Sunshine, big 3D open world levels where Mario has Flood, or has certain movesets such as Cappy, or he can fly around planets with Galaxy with the Luma's help, and I think that just helps to make boss battles more in-depth. And it's exciting to see that list to the right is getting bigger with, more recent updates such as the Galaxy games and Odyssey, but I'm really hoping that list continues to flesh out. This video is not by any means bashing any of these games. All these games are great in their own way, but their boss battles might be different from one another and might lack a certain purpose or, special feeling when it comes to the other games. And that's kind of just what I wanted to pull out and point out and kind of talk about why. If it is really because of the moveset that Mario has, is it because of the design of the game? Is it what causes these boss battles to fall off so, deeply sometimes and then sometimes work out so great? And that's just something that's very interesting. When we look at games such as Metroid, and we look at Diggernaut, and we look at Kirby, like Planet Robobot, and we see these boss battles that are just so dynamic, it really makes me want to see these, carry over to the Mario franchise. And some of these boss battles are just so deep, and Nintendo knows how to create them. I just want to see Nintendo push that into the Mario scene. But thank you guys for tuning in, and if you guys have any say-so or anything you want to talk about with these boss battles, let me know in the comments below. If you guys feel a certain way about any of these games, or if any of those games should have been on the other side of that black line, let me know below. But thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you guys on the next one. See you guys.